Welcome back, ChangeMakers. Last week we talked about fluffy versus crunchy systems, so this week we thought it apt to continue our conversation about rulebooks and talk about min-maxers. Min-maxing is most easily found in a player's character sheet, as opposed to a normal character sheet, which will have a lot of tie-ins to make sure you understand who the character is and what their narrative story is. A min-maxer's character sheet will look like a lot of loose odds and ends just kind of pieced together to make an optimized character. Min-maxers care a lot about getting the maximum amount of skill for the minimum amount of issues. We'll go into this later, but for now, just keep that in mind. Min-maxers are great when you're making an RPG, regardless of where that RPG lies on the spectrum. Min-maxers are your best friends. They will find those edge cases, they will search for those loopholes, and they will probably construe some hidden meaning out of the rules that you weren't expecting. They will tear your game up, but this also means that your game comes out a little bit stronger. This works great for games simply because the whole point of making an RPG is so that the CM and all the players can jump into the game and not have to worry about making a character that's too powerful and breaking the game, or having to find what happens when those edge cases come up. A good game will be able to tell you that for the most part. An RPG is endless, so there will always be an edge case, but sometimes min-maxers can at least minimize how many edge cases. So obviously, since we're talking a lot about rulebooks, this becomes more of an issue for crunchy games than for fluffy games, but min-maxers can still be found in both ends of the spectrum. Min-maxing in-game tends to be that the min-maxer is a little overpowered. They look like they're playing at a different level than the rest of the characters are, which can be really tough to manage as a CM, since RPGs are meant to be a cooperative experience, and when one person is just so far ahead of everybody else, it doesn't really work out like that. Before we jump into kind of how to fix that issue, I want to make sure that we understand the difference between what a min-maxer is and what a narratively overpowered character is. So we're going to jump right into an example. I want to introduce to you two new characters. This is Min and this is Max. They are two players who are entering into a new campaign. The CM told them that they were going to be monster hunters from way out in the sticks in this foggy port town. And that's all the information they've had. So both of them want to optimize being a monster hunter. This is the whole thing. So Min goes through the rulebook and starts trying to find ways to get the most amount of skills for the least amount of issues with their character. So they decide that they find out that if they're afraid of something, then they get a bonus for that. So Min decides that he's afraid of ghosts. And then he also finds another bonus. He can get more points towards his monster hunter skills if he says that he's illiterate, which he figures makes sense. He's from way out in the sticks, it's fine. He can deal with that. So he gets, using these two, he gets a bunch of extra bonus points to become a really great monster hunter, and he's an optimized monster hunter character now. Max, on the other hand, takes a slightly different approach. He also finds the rule that says if you're afraid of something, you get a bonus. So he decided that he was afraid of cacti, because he figured he wasn't going to run into them at all during this campaign because they're in a foggy port town. He also discovered that if he has vision problems, he gets a bonus for that. And if he has glasses to help correct the vision problems, he still keeps a smaller bonus. So he goes for that. And he's like, yeah, that works great. Finally, he also finds if you attack something on site, you get another bonus for that. So he decided he's going to attack butterflies on site because butterflies are easy to attack. They don't defend themselves. easy one hit and done. And he gets bonuses for that. So easy, simple, very optimized. A little better optimized than Min's, but they're both overpowered big monster hunters because they put so many extra skills that they had to go search for. It's important to know that of these two, only player 2 is going to get called out for being min-maxer, even though they both min-maxed. The only reason he gets called out is because his choices didn't make any narrative sense, whereas Min's did. So how do you handle min-maxing as a CM? Well, there's 3 main ways to do this in gameplay. The first one is to keep them separate. So min-maxers up here, and all of the rest of the players are down here. This is examples like Cyberpunk 2020. The hacker would get into the computer, CM and the hacker have a whole chess battle while everybody else goes off and has pizza. When they come back, the chess match is over, and we can move back on to the story, and everybody else can have their time in the limelight. The hacker in this case is the min-maxer, and they can still have their time in the spotlight. They can still show how smart they are and how cool they are, and have that big power moment without taking out everybody else's time. This is hard to do, and obviously not every system supports it well. So the other options are bringing the min-maxer down to everybody else's level, which sometimes needs to happen. It's just hard to tell them no. You can't be the cool, overpowered guy while everybody else is down here. So this is things like taking away powerful items, or just saying, no, you can't have that skill, and moving them back down. The other way to do this, and the nicer way, is to move everybody back up. You have to worry about power creep in this situation, mostly because you're making everybody more and more powerful. So if one person is playing at the superhero level, suddenly they're all at the superhero level. This means you'll have to do things like changing your entire dungeon, or changing where the narrative is going, jumping forward, all of that. So long as you're aware of what's happening, it shouldn't matter too much. You should be able to match them where they're at. Alternatively, you could just nip this in the bud really early on and have a session 0. As I said, the easiest way to recognize a min-maxer is by their character sheet. So be there with them when they're making it. Make sure the whole group is there with them. That way, they're all working with each other to make sure they're not all monster hunters, and they're not all the same monster hunter. Instead, even if they are all monster hunters, they're at least doing really different things to make for a more interesting story. This is so important, even for Min and Max. Min had all those issues with ghosts. What if he didn't necessarily want to talk about superstitions? Or what if this whole story was going to be in a haunted house, and he was going to end up having to really deal with the fact that he was afraid of ghosts? If that wasn't what he wanted to do, why would he write it on his character sheet? Now he's stuck with that. A session 0 can help negate that. Similarly, for Max, and there's a lot of things for Max here. Things like the cacti and the butterflies. If he didn't want them to be relevant, he shouldn't write them on his character sheet, and the CM can knock that down pretty easily. Also with the glasses, what if he just wanted representation? What if he wants to have a conversation about being blind during a monster fight and having that kind of issue? These are things that definitely need to be talked about. You're not going to be able to glean that information just from seeing it, and you really shouldn't assume that kind of information just because you see the player has glasses and his character has glasses. They may not be the same thing. He may not be asking for representation. He may be asking to play with it, or he may just be asking to just ignore it. It doesn't matter. Or he may even have just done it to optimize stuff, and it had nothing to do with who he was. Knowing where to go with it matters. And a session 0 will help you with that. That's all we have for this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about GNS theory, since we've been kind of skirting around it, and I want to talk about GNS theory before I finally get into session 0, but we are almost there. That's what I've been working on. I've been trying to give you guys a vocabulary so that when I start talking lingo at you, you understand what I'm saying. be sure to hit that big red button and subscribe to us. We also have links to Facebook and Twitter in the description. We also have our email in the description, so if you want to ask questions, you can leave a comment or email us. You can email us to add, so we can add you to our newsletter, which comes out once a month. Yeah, I think I covered it all. That's all we have for this week. Bye.